I'm Jeff Fritz with SoundStage.com, and I'm joined today by Nick Brown, the Vice President of Marketing with SVS. Nick, how are you today?
Doing wonderful, Jeff. How about yourself?
I'm doing great, man. Doing super. Thanks for asking. So Nick, I wanted to talk to you today about a little bit of a dilemma that I had recently and kind of where it led me. And it's kind of a dilemma that I think a lot of audiophiles go through that have kids. And so basically what happened, I've got two kids. I've got a daughter that's 15 and a son that will be 14 in a couple of weeks. And they're both really into music, as you can imagine. And, being in a household like ours, there's music playing constantly. My daughter, she loves music, but she could care less about the reproduction of music, unfortunately. She appreciates the system, but she's not super into the gear. My son, on the other hand, recently came to me. He's also really into music. And he said, "Dad, I want a pair of loudspeakers for my birthday." So, being an audiophile and somebody who's used to buying equipment and researching equipment and just into the gear and the sound and the music, that was really a cool thing for me. And it brought up a lot of questions, the first of which was, well, what do I buy him? And, kind of one of the first inclinations that I had was, well, how about a pair of, some kind of vintage speakers and maybe a vintage integrated amp or, something kind of cool like that. And then I started thinking, well, that's probably buying more for me than him. And so I had to start thinking, all right, well, how is he going to use these speakers and, what's going to allow him to get the most enjoyment out of them? And then I started thinking powered or active speakers, some type of wireless or Bluetooth connectivity, et cetera, et cetera. And that led me to you guys and the Prime wireless loudspeaker. So, I wanted you to talk a little bit about SVS, and I know you have kids yourself. Have you given this any thought as to their first pair of loudspeakers, or talk a little bit about SVS and those types of products?
Sure thing. And first of all, Jeff, good on you for raising a son who actually came in and asked about that. I think that's a great sign for us. And, this is a topic we talk a lot about at SVS, actually. And one of the ways we sort of frame it up for discussion is, how do you engage the modern audiophile, and how do you give younger people solutions that they want to get them to truly appreciate sound quality? You mentioned I had kids. I have a 3-year-old. He's not quite at that point yet, but my 15-year-old, also big music lover. He loves all the grunge music that I used to love. He's a big Rolling Stones fan, and then he's into some of the more modern stuff that I just can't even understand why anyone would like it. But hey, that makes me, puts me in my age class, I guess. And so, his typical listening is done through, earbuds or some sort of headphone while he's, walking the dog or whatever. But I did want to do some market research for this, because we do have a couple different speaker systems throughout the house. And so it was important for me to get it from him, what he values most in an experience. And I think when you're talking about sort of that first set of speakers, really getting somebody into it, one of the first things he said was ease of setup and connectivity and control, like even more so than the sound quality, which I think for our audiences, we want it to be all about the sound. But for somebody who, appreciates sound but doesn't necessarily put it first and foremost, that ease of setup, the ability to plug and play, the ability to use the smartphone, which, he's on more often than not, right, and have that control and be able to put stuff out there, that's really sort of the most important thing to him. And then we kind of got into a conversation about what makes you care about sound quality. And, from his perspective, he's like, I actually like an immersive movie experience, that sort of multi-channel or just even speakers in the front stage, and having that ability to really, put yourself into the movie. Whereas with music, it can be background music and it can sound great, but it's not as important to really be thrust into that. And the reason I think this is kind of important is on the connectivity factor. I think younger people, and based on what my son was telling me, they want something that does it all. They want a pair of powered speakers that can be that 2-channel system for music listening while you're cleaning the house or cooking, but also that can provide that audio experience when you're watching, Game of Thrones or streaming various Netflix movies or whatever. So I think that versatility is important as much as the ease of setup and the control options, and then sound quality is in there. But it's a varying scale depending on what he's listening to. So I thought those are some interesting points that he brought up as far as what he values in terms of a loudspeaker.
Yeah, and you're exactly right. Ease of use and connectivity. So the worst possible thing would be to buy something that I think is cool, and then it sit in his room and me never see him using it. That would be the worst, because then I know that whatever I bought, it really probably, he's going to listen to music anyway, and if he's listening over his phone and not over whatever I buy him, then that's a fail from Dad for sure. So the connectivity issue is big, and I agree with that. Connectivity to his phone, absolutely critical. But then from an audiophile standpoint, the great thing about today is there are products that I know are well engineered. They're properly designed loudspeakers. They're real loudspeakers, if that makes sense. They're not, some of these toy Bluetooth speakers, shower speakers and things like that. I wanted something that was a real loudspeaker with real engineering behind it. I know that it has proper acoustic design, that sort of thing. But then the connectivity options, as well. And so having kind of all of those, and then there's one other aspect, and that's price. I didn't want to, it's a birthday. I want to buy him something nice, but I can't break the bank. So I needed something that was still affordable. And so that's kind of the Prime Wireless. Kind of run me through the connectivity options with the Prime Wireless, how you control it, how my son might use it. Kind of give us a rundown of those features.
Sure. I'm glad you brought it up, because I just so happen to have one right here.
Imagine that.
Fact. Yeah, imagine that. So, I think in terms of the streaming capabilities, Bluetooth is obvious. We're not going to get the best sound quality from that, but if you have, the aptX and some of the better coding with Bluetooth, that's an important thing. I think Wi-Fi with a wireless speaker is also important now, because it does allow you, especially with Amazon Music HD and Tidal and Qobuz and some of these services that allow you to stream in high res, which is something I've been trying to get, my older one to really appreciate, is like, let's do an A/B test. And, we've done that with various songs, and there's a real difference there. So I think from the streaming side of it, that's, critically important to have both of those available to you, so you can get that full bit rate and lossless streaming. And then aside from that, getting back to the point about the modern audiophile, he's a big gamer. So I think you need to have connectivity options, on the back of the speaker that have the ability to connect a Blu-ray player, a gaming console, directly connect your laptop or your tablet or your phone to it if you want to do a hardwire connection. So I think that versatility and having those different connectivity options is an important thing. And then when you talk about the sound quality, we're using a 200 watt, which is 50 watts times 4, so 50 watts per driver, which really gives you some nice oomph there. There's also a subwoofer output, so if you wanted to take that next step up and have a little bit more of that chest thumping bass, you could certainly add on to that as well. Optical toss link, so you can connect it directly to the TV, which was big for him. That ability to run it directly to the TV and have it be that home theater experience, as well as being able to stream, your Spotify playlists, all from that single app. We use the DTS Play-Fi app to manage all of that functionality within the Prime Wireless. All of those features were important, again, with that sense of versatility and having that all-in-one, do-all solution for whatever he's listening to.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. If you've got a device that you use for entertainment and you can't connect it to these speakers, then you're limiting the enjoyment that you could get out of the sound quality that these could provide. So yeah, having all those connectivity options, I think that's huge. Now the Play-Fi app, I'm not real familiar with it. I've read about it. Our own Gordon Brockhouse, who reviewed the Prime Wireless, he kind of told me a little bit about the app. Is that going to be an app that he's going to be able to use, fairly intuitive, or is there a steep learning curve for that?
So the basic functions are super easy to use. The time where it gets, I won't call it complicated, but there's more layers, is if you start building on like a multi-room system, because you can have up to 36 different zones and not just Prime Wireless. DTS Play-Fi is an open standard, so you can mix in products from multiple other brands and have this whole home solution, everything playing the same thing at once or different zones playing different things. So once you start setting up those features, it really sort of gets a little bit more intense in how you're using it. But once you do that, it's still pretty easy, because you get the knack of it. To just go in there and start streaming from one of your favorite services, it's pretty intuitive. You're going in there, you're adding the service, you're putting in your account information, and then it's pretty much just using the skin of whatever the music services that you typically enjoy. And, you can do things like create custom presets. So basically, if you have a favorite Spotify playlist or channel, you can queue that up with a single tap. So there's the ability, almost like with a car radio, to be able to have those various, favorites that you're able to just bring up right away, which is a nice convenience, if you have, you don't have as diverse listening preferences, but even if, you have a certain dinner playlist, things like that, you want to just queue up. Not that my 15-year-old's throwing dinner parties anytime soon, but, more for the sake of just having that consistent experience and being able to have what you want at your fingertips immediately, because that was another big thing. It's like, I don't want to have to bury through 3 different sets of instructions and tap this and open that and then calibrate. Like, it has to be seamless and almost instantaneous.
Yeah. It's interesting that you bring up the musical genres. My son listens to, and my daughter, they listen to the normal, pop, rock, rap. But the other day I caught my son listening to some Elvis Presley and then some Glenn Campbell too. So, I think that's probably a good sign that he has pretty diverse musical taste. But so the next question, with a speaker like this going to a teenager, durability. Have you guys, I know you guys have a lot of these in the field now. Have you seen that these speakers are fairly durable, or are people blowing drivers right and left? Kind of give me what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I mean, they come with a 3-year unconditional warranty, and we've had them out for about almost 2 years now. And to my knowledge, there's been very few people who have been able to, blow the drivers or do anything like that. I mean, as long as you're not, running it beyond reference volume for, 10 straight hours, you're going to be in good shape, and they're holding up really, really well. So I think that, that was another part I talked about, is like, do people want to listen to their music loud, and does it matter if it's like, there's distortion, or are you happy just having it as background music? And he actually told me that he has friends who will sit and listen to an entire album without looking at a screen. I'm like, no, they got to be multitasking. They got to be doing something. I'm like, I've never seen you. He's like, are you kidding? He's like, I sit at my desk with my headphones on and my eyes closed. And I'm like, it had me channeling that, 2-channel audio file sitting in the, dark basement in that sweet spot. And it's just sort of the modern version of that. So I do think there's an appetite based on just how much music is out there now, and how much I think the younger generation does appreciate music, where they're willing to, listen to an album start to finish. I will say that tactile vinyl experience, I don't think has hit them yet. I think that might be something you sort of graduate into, as you get older and you appreciate music at a younger age and have all the convenience. Maybe the allure of having that sort of, spiritual experience of putting a disc and watching it spin becomes more important. But, him and his circle of friends, there's nobody who's really into vinyl. So I think, it's good to have the connectivity to be able to hook up a turntable, but I don't think that really engages younger people as much as just the convenience factor. So, I think all of those things together sort of paint a picture of what kids are after. But I was really just I was dumbfounded when he was like, yeah, I'll sit and listen to an album start to finish with my eyes closed at my desk with my headphones. And I'm like, well, wouldn't you do that with a pair of speakers? He's like, for sure. So that was refreshing.
That's a great sign. Actually, that's funny that you bring that up. So my son is I know where he's gonna put the speakers. He has a desk that's pretty robust, and he's gonna put the speakers on this desk, right? They're gonna be basically desktop. And but the chair that he has is a little low, and he actually brought up, he said, Dad, are my ears gonna be too far below the tweeters? And I'm like, gosh, I've got him thinking like an audiophile already. He's thinking listening axis, right? So that's something we'll have to make sure he's got a proper chair.
Well, absolutely. And I was trying to explain to my son, because our wireless solution, while you can get it as a mono, we really recommend having, the left-right because of imaging. And so I was trying to explain to him the value of having a, broad SoundStage and rock-solid pinpoint imaging, so you can hear these different instruments in space, and just sort of drawing you into the music. and he wasn't really getting it until I put them on, a recording that really sort of emphasized that. It was an old Elton John. And he was like, wow, you're right. Like, listening to it in mono versus stereo, it's like you're on stage in the middle versus this. And I think those are the little things that, people don't really appreciate about, what you can get from a pair of speakers set up in an LR setup versus, just that mono pill speaker or a single, speaker that's sitting off to the side doing the background music. So all of that was, kind of a fun experience to teach him a little bit about, what is sound and how it, can be set up in a way to really matter more.
Yeah. So last question about the Prime Wireless. So, none of us are true audiophiles if we don't think about upgradability and the upgrade path, right? So you mentioned the subwoofer. So tell me how, if in the future, next birthday rolls around, he wants to upgrade his system, wants a small subwoofer, more low bass, obviously. How does that work with the Prime Wireless and connecting a subwoofer?
Sure. So we actually have a 2.1 package as well. If somebody wants to start off with that, they'll come with our most compact SB1000 to sealed cabinet subwoofer. So a little quicker with the speed and transients, very accurate, very musical subwoofer. So, you could certainly start off that way, but the upgrade path is super easy. I mean, that would be the subwoofer we would typically recommend. Anything bigger than that, you're just going to have a little bit of wasted headroom. You don't want to get a subwoofer that's so big that it could potentially overwhelm the SoundStage if you really have it dialed up. So we found the SB1000 to be really the ideal match for Prime Wireless.
Okay.
And then, it comes with the RCA cable if you buy the system, so it can connect directly to it. So it's really sort of a seamless setup. There's a built-in 80 hertz low pass filter, so obviously, it sets that up right away, so you don't have to do any DSP adjusting within the subwoofer, which again is an important thing for people who aren't really interested in calibrating. They just want it to sound great out of the box.
Right.
So that's probably the easiest upgrade path that you could take in terms of just filling out the soundstage a little bit more and getting some of that more immersive bass that I know people like with certain genres of music, and especially with movies if you're going to be running it that way.
Okay, and can you just give us the retail price of the Prime Wireless and the SB1000 and the retail price of the package deal?
Sure. So for the Prime Wireless speaker system, it comes in both a white gloss and a black gloss, and the price for that is $599.99, and you'll have to forgive me because I'm looking up the system price right now. I should really have this at the top of my mind. So $599.99 for the two-channel system with just the speakers, and then it would be $1099.98 with the SB1000 subwoofer.
Okay.
On its and then that comes with the RCA cable as well. So you do get a little bit of a price. We basically throw the cable in for free if you get the subwoofer as an add-on. But $599.99 and then $1099.98 for the system with the subwoofer.
Got it.
And both come in either a piano black gloss or a piano white gloss.
Got it. All right. Well, last question, Nick, is what is your favorite recent listening experience? I've been asking folks this since the lockdown. We've all been using a little bit more, entertainment, having a little bit more entertainment time. What have you listened to lately that's impressed you, or maybe a favorite piece of music, or whatever listening experience you want to share?
So I'll go to a movie first. I had an opportunity to rewatch The Abyss, which I don't know why, but I wanted to show my son sort of a stressful, intense movie. So we watched The Abyss together, and man, that thing really sort of just has you on the edge of your seat and, really gripping the armrest there for most. So that was a fun one to enjoy with him. With my younger one, we watched Frozen 2, which has some really immersive movie and music moments as well. So that was kind of cool. And then we've been doing some of watching the live streams that all these artists are putting out there to sort of just stay out. DJ Jazzy Jeff did one who was actually got a close affiliation with the SVS brand. He had a bunch of DJs going all day. And while the sound quality isn't the greatest, I just love that all these people are taking this personal approach and just trying to stay out there and get, lift people's spirits. So trying to take those in. But, we've been doing a lot of family movie time, as you can imagine. And then, I don't know if I'm going to be dating myself, but I've been busting out and dusting off the old CD collection. So I used to be a punk fan, and we do our Saturday house cleaning, so we've been playing some NoFX and some Vandals and Minor Threat. And again, the recordings aren't the best, but high energy, excitement, trying to get the family motivated. So that's more or less, that's a lot more than you asked for, but those are some of the recent experiences.
That's awesome. It sounds very familiar, believe me. That's a lot of what's going on around my house too. So I appreciate that. Well, Nick, thank you so much for the time, and I hope that this helps people. If you've got teenagers in the house and they ask for that first set of loudspeakers, hopefully this gives you some considerations. I've certainly given this a lot of thought recently, and honestly, I'm going to order up a pair of prime wireless loudspeakers for him. I guess the last question will be, does it get white or does it get black? But it sounds like a really, really good product, and I think it's something that he'll really be able to enjoy. So I appreciate you giving me kind of the virtual tour of the product and thinking through some of the issues.
Well, Jeff, I really appreciate you having me on, and it's really important for SVS to engage new audiences to the joys of awesome sound, and obviously I think younger generations are what's going to carry this forward. And so, people like you and I, us old farts, getting our children into this, that's how it happens. A lot of people don't have a pathway otherwise. So kudos to you for taking care of your son, and mine is already a budding audiophile too. So, cheers to us.
Awesome. Well, have a great weekend, Nick.
Thank you, Jeff.